Hey guys, Chris Peach here, and welcome to the Money Peach podcast. Hey, do you remember growing up learning how to handle money? Yeah, neither do I. So that's why we're here today, to make your money fun again. You know, we're going to talk about the principles in life that actually matter when it comes to managing your money in a way that works. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of the Money Peach podcast. Before we jump into another amazing episode of the Money Peach podcast, I want to take a second to talk to you guys about my free live training event, Stop Living Paycheck to Paycheck and Just Live. Join me each week on this live webinar where I show you the 4-step system we use to go from living paycheck to paycheck to later paying off $52,000 in debt in only 7 months. And as a bonus for joining me on this live training, I'll be answering any questions you may have during the live Q&A session at the end. So head on over to moneypeach.com/webinar to get registered. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Money Peach podcast. I'm Chris Peach. This is episode 52. Now, on the show today, I'm bringing on Thomas Smyth. So Thomas is up in San Francisco. He is the founder and the CEO of a really cool fintech software company called Trim. Now, I found Trim a few months back. I've been using it now. I tell everybody I know about it, and it's really cool because it does things automatically in the background of your life to help you make decisions financially. Sometimes it even makes the decisions for you to save you money. We'll talk about how that works. It's really, really cool. But the best part of this episode is I'm bringing on an entrepreneur. I'm bringing on somebody who had this idea or had this thing that he could make better than it currently was. And that's exactly what he did. And he talks about this story, becoming an entrepreneur, how he grew his business, and now how he's reaching hundreds and thousands of people all over the country with his product. So without further ado, let me bring on Thomas Smyth, founder and CEO of Trim. Alrighty, Thomas, thank you so much for coming on the Money Peach podcast. Super excited to have you on. I found your service a few months ago, and I became a huge fan, and there's a personal touch to it. You sent me an actual personal email, which we'll talk about that here in a minute, which I thought was really cool. After using the product, I thought, you know what, this is something that's really, really cool. It's an entrepreneur growing a business that's going to benefit people tremendously. Why not bring him on the podcast to share his story? So Thomas, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for having me on. This is such an honor. And I really appreciate your reaching out, and I love to hear from people who are using our product. And as you may have figured out, I spend about 99% of my life trying to answer emails from people like you.
It's pretty remarkable because you have a pretty outstanding product. And so we're going to talk about how it works here in a minute, but I want to talk about beforehand, if you don't mind. But it was neat is there's not many apps or products or services out there where you sign up for something completely free, and then all of a sudden you get an email and it says, "Hi, I'm Thomas. I'm the founder and CEO of Trim. And if you have any ideas that can make this better, email me," because I do respond or read every single one. And I thought, the CEO of this company is emailing me? I'm like, this is totally unique. You don't see this anymore. Right away, I felt like it had more value right there just because of that email. We'll talk about that here too. But Thomas, tell me a little bit about you. Where are you at right now?
I am sitting in San Francisco, California, one of the most beautiful places I've ever lived. And we live in perhaps the sunniest part of the city in the Mission District, where our little office is based.
Okay, and so you say little office. How big of a company, how many employees are you looking at?
We have 6 people in the office today, and we have kind of the ideal size for communication on our team. Because if you want to get someone's attention, you don't have to send them an email. You don't have to call them. You just stand up and wave at them, right? Yeah. And we find that's been the way to really accelerate our product development over the past 2 years, is to have everyone sit in the same room. And if you have an idea, you just get to talk about it with whoever's right next to you.
So that's really, really cool. So before we jump into how Trim works, because I definitely want to talk about that, what's your background then? I mean, you're now in like a software development company, financial app, but it's not an app. I don't want to call it an app because it's really not an app. So give me your background. Where did you start?
Totally. So after college, I actually spent a couple of years doing something entirely different, Chris. I moved to Zambia in southern Africa and sold solar panels and solar-powered lights to off-grid households. I did that for almost 2 years, had a fantastic time there. It was very different, of course, from the work I'm doing today. And when I moved back to the States, I actually moved to Los Angeles and started working for a venture capital firm, investing in something they called financial technology. Now, I didn't really know what that was, but I was lucky enough to learn very quickly and have a great mentor and instructor, one of the partners of the firm, who kind of helped me to get up to speed on what was going on in the ecosystem. It turns out that there's actually a lot happening in the world of financial products and services. Because on one hand, you have all of these old, stodgy financial institutions that have been around for a very long time, right? So you have big banks, big insurance companies, big payments companies, all of which mint money, right? And all of which are basically using the same technology that they've been using all along. What's happening is that in the world of kind of technological innovation, there are actually some really interesting changes that have come about over the past, let's say, 5 or 10 years. The biggest one of those has been the arrival of transaction data and the ability to aggregate your data and see it all in one place across all those financial institutions. So Mint.com, I think, is like the canonical example of how to take data and make it really useful for you as a user. What we've seen just in the past 2 to 3 years is a new technology around artificial intelligence and machine learning come to bear. And I think if data was kind of, the first crack in the old way of doing retail banking and retail financial services, AI and machine learning is going to absolutely blow up the entire ecosystem because these technologies take the world of personal finance and of financial services and they begin to automate it for you. So the analogy that I use is actually with self-driving cars, right? So today, as a person walking around, you are expected to drive your own car. And if you're driving from San Francisco to Los Angeles, you got to stay awake the whole time. You got to keep your hands on the wheel and your feet on the pedals, right?
Sure.
Now, you're saying, oh, well, this isn't actually true. Hey, there's cruise control and stuff. And I completely agree. And that's actually kind of the first step toward the automation of that voyage, because I believe, and many other people smarter than I believe, that in 10 or maybe 15 years, that car will be mostly or maybe fully automated, and it'll drive you from San Francisco to Los Angeles or Augusta, Georgia, where I grew up, to Atlanta, Georgia. So in the same way, we think that change will happen in the world of personal finance and financial services, where today you have to manage your own financial life, right? You have to figure out if your bill is due today or not. And you have to figure out if you should refinance that credit card debt or what you should do about your student loans, if you should pay them off faster or pay them off at the normal rate. You have to figure out what credit card is best for you. You have to figure out what is going on in your financial statement and can I save more? Can I cut costs here and there? And I think in 10 years, you're not going to have to worry about that because you'll have an AI-powered assistant that does all of that work for you. And so maybe you still sit in the driver's seat, but you're able to take a nap, right? And the little AI, your car, your, trim personal financial advisor may still wake you up from time to time and say, hey, I just wanted to get approval for this, or this seems best, but I just need your okay to go ahead with this plan to, save you some money in this way. And you'll say, yes, great, because you've been using this thing for 10 years and you finally trust its judgment enough to be able to yield some degree of control over to it to make these kind of minor everyday decisions. So that's what we are doing at Trim, is we are slowly but surely trying to build that fully automated financial assistant that we think will help people to avoid both the fender benders of their financial lives and also the big car wrecks that we often see in American household finance, right? So that's what we're trying to do. It's a real big project, and I'm so glad that folks like you, Chris, are along for the ride.
I love what you said there. I think it's important, Thomas, that we look at kind of how far we've come, because I remember I was a college student, freshman year of college in 2001, and I remember my parents were trying to send me money, right? I was a poor college student, and I said, Dad, I have an online account at Wells Fargo. Can't you just send me money there? And he stops and he says, Chris, no one's going to be sending money anywhere on the internet. That's how you get your money stolen. And this is 2001, all right? So fast forward, to just 5-6 years later, I don't even know. I don't know what the numbers are, but I can only imagine it had to be 90% or higher people were doing online banking. And now today, I think the only people that still go into the branch to do 100% of the banking is one person, and that's my grandma. That's it.
Wait, my grandma too, actually.
Okay, so there's two of them out there.
Right.
But you look at this 5, 10, 15-year transition. So it's not, I mean, I think a lot of people might be thinking, wow, and for those of you listening who aren't familiar with AI, artificial intelligence is what we're talking about. So when Thomas is saying AI, he's talking about an artificial intelligence, call it a robot. If you saw the movie I, Robot, something behind the scenes doing something for you. And we've already seen it now. I mean, there are self-driving cars out there, which, I mean, we only saw those in the movie Back to the Future, which was like 1988, right? And now we're here. So Thomas, why did you create this product though? You are obviously in the fintech world, but why did you see this product to go at, or this service to, this problem to solve?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you look at the financial lives of the vast majority of Americans, they are not perfect. Let's put it that way. When you kind of dig in a little bit further, a lot of people have tried to fix this problem by educating folks, right? By providing more financial literacy, or, there's a lot of great content online on how to be more financially healthy and so forth. And people have, I remember I taught a class to some elementary school children. I think I was in high school or something. I'm trying to help them understand basic personal financial techniques and how to write a check and these sorts of things. And it turns out, and this is somewhat controversial, so I hope no one gets offended, but I would argue that much of the financial literacy education in America up to today has not worked, has not really helped the vast majority of people in America to be more financially healthy, right?
Well, the reason why it doesn't work is there is none. There is no financial literacy.
Right. So there is none. And then when you try to give it, it's very difficult to give. But the way I kind of think of financial literacy education is the same way that I think about my mother, God bless hers, recommendations to me about my diet. So sometimes I call my mom, and she very kindly asks what I've been eating lately, and she points out that I should probably eat more broccoli. And I go, Mom, you are 110% correct. I should be eating more vegetables. I should also be going to the gym more frequently, right? There are all sorts of things that your mom tells you to do that you're like, wow, Mom, what a fount of wisdom. You are totally right. And then you don't do it, right? And so we kind of thought, well, what if we could build this assistant that would eat the broccoli for you and you would magically become more healthy, right? Or that would go to the gym and do some push-ups on your behalf. And then suddenly you would reap the benefits and be healthier. Now, obviously you can't do that with diet or with exercise, but it turns out when it comes to saving money, somebody else can do it for you, right? A machine can do that for you. And so that's where we saw this really interesting opportunity to solve the problem of poor financial health, was to just outsource the problem entirely and have somebody else do it for you. Have this machine deal with it for you.
Thomas, when did you come up with the idea?
It was certainly percolating in my mind the whole time that I was working at this investment firm. But we really, sat down and started working on the company 2 years ago. Okay,
so it starts in 2015, correct?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so 2015, it's called Trim, or it's the website's Ask Trim, right? Correct? Mm-hmm. So you start Trim. How did you get started? Because I think there's so many people listening to this that, they have their own ideas And just like you, it was percolating their mind. What was the movement from, okay, I'm going to have this idea and I'm going to move forward to and actually do it? How did that work?
So we started by creating a Twilio phone number, which would provide financial advice, right? And so it's a Texas number, and it'll be maybe it's a robot, maybe it's a real person on the back end, but they'll help you improve your financial life. And then I sent that number to, I don't know, 50 or 100 friends. And so they all texted it, right? And so I'm sitting there like frantically texting away in all these little conversations. And, I think I did a pretty terrible job, to be honest. But my friends reported to me after that they really liked the idea, right? That if, they understood this was kind of a version 1 and it wasn't meant to be production ready or, even to help them very much, to be honest. But they loved the idea that they could have a financial assistant that would take care of X and Y and Z for them. And as we dug into that more, what people really wanted was proof that the assistant had done something for them in, the first month, right? And so we started thinking of different ways that we can actually help people immediately after they signed up, in the hopes that that would engender some loyalty and trust in the product, and that we could build on that foundation of trust for the long run, as we, kind of had time and resources to build all sorts of other functions. So that was it. So I would say if you have an idea, test it out with 20 or 30 or 40 friends and try to build just the shallowest, most basic version of it and see what people say.
When you created this Twilio phone number, was this so you could text your friends kind of in disguise so they wouldn't know it was you, so you can get honest feedback?
Exactly.
So they were receiving a text message from a Texas number, which they probably don't know anybody in Texas, right? If your friends are in Georgia or wherever. And so now they're giving feedback to what they think is a stranger, but it's really giving to you, so you can kind of get that unbiased opinion.
Well, there was a little more bias involved. So I think I sent them an email, or maybe I texted them from my number with this phone number in the body of the message. So it said, hey, Michael, trying out this new thing. Text this number for financial advice and let me know what you think, right?
Did they know it was you? I mean, did they know that the number, the Twilio number was you?
People knew it was related to me, and if people played around with it long enough, they certainly figured it out, right? But I didn't disclose that immediately. Because the idea all along was, hey, someday we're going to replace, Thomas behind the scenes here with a real machine, right? With a real piece of software. And so it was trying to test whether or not people would be interested in that proposition.
That's a really good idea. So for those of you wondering, we keep saying the word Twilio. I use Twilio as well. And you can sign up, you can get a phone number with any area code you want. And you can send text messages from it. We use it for our business as well. It works out very nicely. And so if you've actually been listening and you receive text messages from me, it's from Twilio. So that's what that is. We'll put links for the show notes on that if you're interested in that. So, all right. So you have this idea. You've surveyed. You've tested it with your friends, your warm audience. So what's the next step?
The next step was figuring out, and my co-founder had joined by then. So my co-founder, Daniel, and I have known each other for going on 9 years now, and he, fortunately, is the more technical half of the founding team. Daniel said, well, this is cool. We kind of got some traction going on this. Let's see if we can build something, that would do this in a software-focused way, and that would focus very narrowly on one specific use case, right? So the assistant, is not going to be able to do everything under the sun on day one. We've got to figure out one thing that we can do really well for people in the first couple months. We actually sat down and reviewed our own credit card statements. And we were going through them to see, hey, are there obvious opportunities for savings? Where can we cut back? And it turned out that both Daniel and I had these recurring payments, these subscriptions that we were paying for but not using. And we had kind of signed up for them at some point in the past few months and then forgotten about them, and they were still dogging our credit cards. So I had signed up for Hulu has this, there's a free trial, and so you can sign up for the free trial, and then you put your credit card in, but they don't bill you for 30 days. And so I had done one of those to watch one TV show once upon a time, right? And forgotten to cancel. And it's my own fault. I should have written down on my calendar, hey, cancel Hulu this date. I'm not watching that show anymore. But I had forgotten, and so it billed me for a couple months. Daniel had renter's insurance that he was paying for on an apartment that he had moved out of 6 months before. Okay. So we were kind of thinking, hey, well, maybe, wouldn't it be, why haven't we canceled these subscriptions? And actually, in my case at least, I had known that I was paying for this kind of in the back of my mind. And every time it billed me, I thought, shoot, I should really go and cancel that. But it's not a problem because I'm sure I'll do it sometime in the next 30 days before they bill me again. I have 28 days, and I might watch another show or something. So I'll just wait till the end of the month. And then I'd forget, and the cycle kind of begins anew, right? And so we thought, hey, wouldn't it be great if there were a one-click way to cancel this subscription? And along the way, we could kind of build this foundation for everything else by analyzing transaction data, because we thought what Mint had was really interesting, that you were able to aggregate and see all your accounts in one place. But wouldn't it be better if Mint would do more analysis on top of that data and then take some action on your behalf, right? And so that's kind of where we started, is we built this software product that would analyze your data, present a list of your subscriptions, and then automatically cancel anything you didn't want anymore. You would say, cancel Hulu, and we'd fire off an email to Hulu. So we built that and launched it to some friends at first, and then felt really good about it, and then launched in the press, I think in November 2015, and people loved it. It overloaded our servers the first day. We had to put people on a wait list because we had too many people sign up, and we couldn't, we were so unprepared technologically for the load. So that was a really, really nice early glimpse of product market fit. I call that moment feature market fit, where we hadn't built the whole product, but we had built one little feature, and the market liked the feature. And that was enough to justify raising outside investment and going on to build what we have now, which is more of a fully fledged product.
Are you tired of living paycheck to paycheck? Are you lying in bed awake at night wondering how you're going to pay the next bill? How you're going to save for kids' college? How you're going to pay off that debt? And when are you going to take that dream vacation that you guys have been talking about forever? Well, stop worrying about it and head on over to awesomemoneycourse.com and see why students all over the world are now taking back control of their money. They're now in the driver's seat of their financial future. awesomemoneycourse.com. awesomemoneycourse.com. So when I first signed up with Trim, it's all through Facebook Messenger, and I get a message on my Facebook Messenger, and it says, hey, Chris, did you know you have these 7 subscriptions? And then it labels them off. It was like Netflix, MailChimp, and it just kept going down the list. Sirius, XM Radio. Luckily for me, I did know I had those. But
great, good.
But I remember there was a time a few years ago where we sold a car that had XM Radio. And we kept paying for it, and we kept paying for it. And then it was maybe about 6 months later, I realized, man, someone out there has been enjoying the heck out of our radio. That kind of stuff. And so I felt stupid for not knowing this, and it would have been so much easier if Trim was around. This is 2006 or 7, maybe it was a while back. But if Trim was around, I could just put in my Facebook Messenger, cancel, and then whatever it's called, and it does it. That is cool. That's how it works. I mean, it's super cool.
I think this example is so good because it's something that got lost in the rush, right? You were focusing, rightly so, on a much bigger question of selling your car. And you weren't thinking about, this minor detail, right? Because financially, it was a lot less important than selling the car. So I think this is a great example of how personal finance, especially in a digital world where there are, all these recurring payments and automated payments and money is moving around without you're necessarily 100% being aware of it moving, right? It's not like you have to open your wallet and take out cash for every purchase anymore. And so these things just kind of get lost. And I don't think that you said, oh, I feel stupid. I don't think that's fair to you, actually. I don't think you were stupid. I think that personal finance is too complicated for a human to understand anymore, right? That's what we're trying to do here is say, hey, it's not your fault if you're careless, quote unquote, with your finances. Let's stop blaming ourselves and let's think about how complicated the system has gotten, right? In the same way that like the planes now, largely, once they get into the air, fly themselves. They have an autopilot. The pilots are there, and the pilots play an active role, and they're awake and so forth. But it would be really hard for, like, one person to be, constantly maintaining the right pressure and the right altitude and so on and so forth. Like, that would be really, really hard. And so when we create as a society these systems that are more and more and more complex, I think we also need to think about the human side of that and how humans, real people, are expected to interact with those systems. And I think increasingly there's this breaking point where it's just too hard for a human to understand.
I 100% agree. I mean, today I got a notification from Trim. So we wrote a big check for a repair we had at the house. Our air conditioning went out. It was pretty neat. I get a message and it has a red flag, like a red emoji, and it says, hey, large expense. And I look back and I remember when I set it up, I said, look, if there's anything that goes out over, I think it was $200, I want to know about it. If this happens, and you get these little notifications, and they're fun notifications. They're not these boring text messages. They're like these balloons it's totally different. It makes you feel way different just by seeing this. So what are some of the other features now that we have with Trim?
So people are always asking us, how else can you save me money, right? And that is really our guiding premise in terms of kind of pushing forward and helping us to navigate our product development timeline. So today, Trim not only will cancel your old subscriptions and help you to keep an eye on your finances with these notifications and updates, we will also watch your Comcast bill. If you have Comcast, we'll watch your service, and we crowdsource this outage information. So if there's an outage in your area, we will automatically go to Comcast and say, hey, there was an outage. I'm paying for 24/7 service, right? Like, can you put a credit for the appropriate amount as compensation on my next bill? And we've constructed this in such a way, our engineers on this team are just phenomenal. And so they've built this incredible architecture that's able to automate that entire interaction with Comcast, which most people don't love talking to Comcast, right? And so being able to have, this machine do it for you is quite gratifying for most of our users. So it does this Comcast negotiation. We have a feature that automatically finds savings and discounts on your purchases and applies those to your purchases with any Visa card. So this is through kind of a cool partnership we have with Visa. They've been awesome to work with. Obviously, it's a huge company, and we're very small in comparison to them. But we're working with a team there that's been really helpful with their time and very generous in helping us to build what is technically an extremely complicated product. So the future for this discounts opportunity is, hey, coupons today require some proactive behavior on the part of the user. You have to go and clip it out and remember to take it to the store and then remember to present it to the cashier when you're checking out and so forth. And so a lot of people say, hey, that's too much work. Or they say, shoot, I really want to do that, but I always forget, right? Or it's like, I got too many coupons going on. So what we think is really interesting is if you're putting that payment on a credit card, on a Visa card, why not just like digitally associate that coupon or that discount with the card number so that when your card swipes at the register, the coupon automatically gets applied, right? And we think this is basically the future of what coupons are going to look like in 5 years, where it's just going to be entirely automated on the back end. So that's been a super popular feature for us. And then we have this feature that can test overdraft fees. And Chris, you would not believe everybody in America gets overdraft fees. Okay, I thought that it was people who were just careless. Well, it's not. It's sometimes people who are watching their finances and they just aren't quite sure when things are going to get cashed, or sometimes the payments move in weird, unexpected ways, or an auto withdrawal happens on a date that you didn't fully expect or whatever. So whenever we see an overdraft fee, if the user wants, we'll send an email to your bank asking for the bank to refund that fee because you didn't mean to do it. And a lot of the time they'll actually do a refund. And so that's been super helpful for people. And then another feature that we've got in beta right now is a price protection claim feature. So you know that these prices on Amazon and other sites are moving up and down and sideways every minute, right? And so it's kind of difficult to be sure if you're getting the right price. And if you go on to Amazon and you see the price, you don't want to sit around and wait for a week to see if it goes down, because what if it goes up? And you need the thing now, right? I mean, we're so conditioned to getting it now. So what this price protection feature does is that we call it Price Patrol. It links into your Amazon account and it watches the price of everything you purchased in the last 90 days. And it says, hey, price on this one up, price on this one down, price on this one up, price on this one down, whatever. And the prices, I'm telling you, it's crazy. They go up and down constantly. Then if you made that purchase with a credit card that has a feature called price protection, so it's a card benefit for, I think, most MasterCards and some Chase cards and Citi and Discover have it. If you made the purchase, your Amazon purchase, with one of those cards, then we can actually help you prepare the documentation to file a claim and say, hey, I bought this when it was, I bought this pair of sneakers when it was $40 and now it's 30, And if that happens, there's certain rules and restrictions, of course, but we basically try to make the process pretty seamless for filing that claim. In some cases, again, it's still in beta, this is all kind of in the works, but in some cases we'll actually be able to file the claim for you, which of course is the ideal experience, where you don't have to do anything and the checks roll in, right? And so we're excited about that. Again, these are all features that are not going to be life-changing for you. These aren't going to save you tens of thousands of dollars, but they will save you real money, especially if you're thinking about, hey, I just want to have this stuff taken care of. I don't want to worry about it. I want to have someone else deal with it. That's exactly what Trim is about, right? And we hope that you'll come in, you'll try us out, you'll stick with us, you'll save some money, and that as we grow and as we add more and more to the product, that we'll be able to find you more and more impactful ways of saving money for you in the future.
So Thomas, I love this. I mean, I love your story. I love how you took a problem that you saw, solved it. I mean, you thought of a way to solve it, and then you actually went out and did it.
Solving in progress, exactly.
It's amazing. I mean, there's so many people out there that have wonderful ideas that just don't take the next step, which is action.
I completely agree.
I love the way you did it. So I'm going to ask the question that I know everybody else is thinking is, this is a free product, completely free.
With one exception. So we today will take a percentage of what we save you on that Comcast bill negotiation. We've started taking 25% of what we save you in the next month. So completely, the rest of the product completely free to sign up and so forth. We are testing this monetization mechanism to see what it looks like and if it is going to move the needle for us in terms of helping us to fund our operating expenses and helping us to fund future growth. So that's one, and so far people have responded to that like, yes, absolutely. I love that our incentives are aligned. Please, take your 25% because hopefully that's going to make you, Trim, save more for me, right? Because it saved me $10. Well, it's $2.50 for you.
Sure.
That's beans. Figure out a way to save me $100. That's $25 for you, right? Like, I really like that the incentives are aligned there, and I love having a monetization mechanism that works in that way.
Yeah, you're in business obviously to generate income. I hope everybody out there that is in business is, generating income. But with that said look at the amount of time, effort, and just headache that you save people by they don't have to spend an afternoon on the phone with Comcast if there's an issue. You do that for them. So that's a service, right? There's a service. So is this the only way that you're able to generate income or generate revenue through Trim, or is there other ways as well?
So far that's been the biggest one. We are certainly looking at other folks in the space to see how they make money and if there might be some examples there. Two very large incumbents in this world are Credit Karma, which offers this free credit score, so an entirely free experience, which is great. And then they run advertisements effectively for credit cards and other financial products. And so that's another thing we're looking at is, hey, what do the economics look like there? What does that do for the user experience? Is there a way that we can do this without being, spammy or have too many ads? This is also something that Mint.com does, where they have kind of these advertisements for credit cards and for other financial products. So we're talking to customers and trying to figure out what makes the most sense for the user and make sure that as we test some of these monetization ideas, we don't impair the user experience. Because I think that the last thing people want is to come in and just get a bunch of ads. That is like really kind of the opposite of everything that we stand for. So we're going to keep looking at it and keep talking to folks. And Chris, if you or others have ideas, please send them my way. We haven't put up a tip jar yet, but maybe we should.
As you were talking, I was thinking, what are some of the most annoying things, that I've had happen to me financially? Some of the things that happen, I don't know how. I was thinking maybe we could automate this somehow. I think you could. I don't want to name the company because
automate anything.
You can automate anything, but we had an alarm company, one of the bigger ones in the country here. We got charged $350. Oof. Yes, and for some service that wasn't done. And so I said, this is going to be an easy fix. So we called them and said, hey, this wasn't done, whatever. And they said the best they could do was apply the $350 to my account as a credit.
Oh, no.
And I said, well, if it's $30 a month, so I'm giving you guys some financing here for, $330 worth. So anyhow, long story short, I had to go through Visa. And spend a bunch of time on the phone with them. And if there was a way to automate, it ended up working out, but it was literally probably, I would say, 3 man-hours of phone conversations. And time is money.
I think this is another great example of how these systems and big corporations have gotten too complex, right? Because if I walk into a store, if I walked into that alarm company's, showroom and I picked up $330 worth of equipment and then I walked out of the store, I would be arrested, right? Yeah. And rightfully so. That is called theft, okay? But when that alarm company takes $330 out of your wallet and walks away with it, then you got to go through, 3 hours on the phone to get it back. Well, I don't know, something about that rubs me the wrong way, Chris. And I think that in this world where we kind of have a double standard of the rules that are applied for people and the rules that are applied for big corporations, I don't think that we should change the rules that we apply for people. I think that those are in place for a reason. But I think that we should think about the rules that we apply for big corporations and just there's a very simple fairness test of, was it fair that they took $330 from you and then said, oh, we'll give it back as a credit. Well, I think everyone would agree, no, absolutely not, right? And who cares what the law is? Because they're going to lawyer up and they're going to have their counsel say, oh, well, you signed this fine print, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, yes, but what about just a simple, is this fair? Is this a fair way of treating someone? And I hope that, as we move into a more digital age and, as these systems become even more and more complicated, we don't lose sight of that. And in fact, we can have, more and more folks thinking about that and trying to hold corporations to that standard of not just what can your lawyer say is okay, but what is actually fair for the consumer.
Amen to that. Yeah. Even just talking about it, the hair on my back is standing up because it's like, oh, it brings up something.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
If you think about it, Thomas, I mean, we've automated, 15 years ago, the banking system, just simple checking, right? Doing like online transactions. We've automated that. And, with the robo-investors now, I'd say over the last, 7 to 10 years, I mean, really, that's automated. We're rebalancing our ETFs in nanoseconds now. Okay. And so that makes sense, right? It probably didn't make sense before it happened, but now we look at it going, yeah, of course, this makes perfect sense. Right. And, even with cars that are self-driving, this was something that you saw in Back to the Future, kind of laughed at it. And now it's like, whoa, this is actually happening. Now it makes sense. And so trim, it's the same thing. It makes sense. It takes personal finance to the very, very personal level. So not the investing level, but the very personal transactional level. And it creates an automation for it. And automation is quicker, it's hassle-free, it saves you time, and it saves you money. And it doesn't make mistakes.
Exactly. And Chris, I got to say, being an entrepreneur, it's a lot about hard work, and it's a lot about trying to do the right thing and having a good idea and so forth. But a lot of it is just luck and being in the right place at the right time. And so what I am really hoping for Trim's sake is that this is a big, big wave that is coming along and that we are in the right place at the right time with the right surfboard to hop up and ride it, and there are just so many forces outside of our control. And I think that consumer adoption and the whims of, what people want today and next year are very tough to decipher. But I feel like it is inevitable, and it's just a question of when, not if. So our hope is the when is now.
Absolutely. So you guys can check that out. Go to moneypeach.com/trim, TRIM, moneypeach.com/trim. And check it out. I love it. I'm telling you, I highly, highly recommend it. It's fun. I'm telling you, you get a little message. It's all through Facebook Messenger, and you're going to get a message, and it says, hey, welcome. Here's your balance. Here's how much here's if you get low balance alerts. You get to automate it any way you want. That's another thing. I like to customize things. So you go through the settings, and you can customize it any way you want. If you want it to say, hey, you spent this much money today, or get alerts, that's what's really cool. I like the Amazon beta feature. I think that's going to be huge because who doesn't use Amazon?
Right.
The overdraft fees, you hit the nail on the head. $32 billion last year or 2 years ago in overdraft fees in the United States. So, yes, you're right. Everybody does overdraft. So that's going to be something to help with. And then I'm looking at my phone right now as we're talking. I'm looking at the message I got today, and it has all my subscriptions lined up. And you don't even have to do anything. There's a button that says cancel. So, for example, I like Netflix. We're not getting rid of it. But for some reason, if I wanted to get rid of Netflix, all I got to do now is hit the button cancel, and I can go on with my day. I don't have to go log in, remember my password or anything like that. That is, you're right. It's automation. It's cool. It's really, really cool, and I love it.
Chris, thank you so much. It is so great to hear from a fan, and such an honor to be on your show.
Well, I got some questions I want to ask you real quick.
Yeah, great.
I am a big fan of reading. I'm always reading 2 different books at a time. I'm doing one audio, one reading, actually. And I think leaders are readers. What books do you recommend? What's your most recommended book?
Ooh, well, the best book of all time, in my opinion, is a book called All the King's Men by Robert Penn Warren. It has nothing to do with technology and everything to do with people and how people relate to each other. I have read it and reread it many times over the years, and I absolutely love it because it presents a bunch of larger-than-life characters in Southern drama through the lens of kind of this semi-historical account of a governor and his path to power. So anyway, that's totally unrelated. And then the other book I read lately that I've been recommending to folks is called The Three-Body Problem. And it's science fiction, okay? It's 3 volumes, and they're all very long. It's pretty dense stuff. So if you read it and you're like, this is not for me, then my mom's with you, right? Like, it's certainly not for everyone. But it's super interesting and, kind of goes into this question of where is everyone, right? If you look up in the night sky and you kind of look at all the stars out there and think about how big our universe is, then where are they? What's going on out there? Maybe there's no one, right? But this book says, hey, maybe there is someone, and let's delve into what that might actually look like and how we might interact with them.
Very cool. So we'll put links in the show notes to both of those books. Very cool. Out of all the guests on the show, no one's mentioned any of those books, so that's cool. Usually, sometimes I get a lot of overlap, so that was cool. And then lastly, funny thing I like to ask people is, what is on the home screen of your phone?
Yes, it is so I used to live in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles is a fantastic place to live. We had a really great place that had a deck, which is like, San Francisco is very small and you have much smaller houses. And so we no longer have as large or as sunny of a place. But it is a photo of the view from that deck, and it looks out on some palm trees, and it's a beautiful California sky. And yeah, it's just a pretty view. I've only lived in California for, I guess, 3-4 years now. And I grew up in Georgia, as I mentioned, and I'm really loving it out here. It's really, really interesting.
Very cool. All right, Thomas, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a lot of fun. I know our users are going to absolutely love it. So head on over to moneypeach.com/trim. Check it out. It's completely free. You're not going to have to pull out your debit or credit card or anything like that. It's an app that's going to help you. So, the biggest thing I would say is if there's something out there that's cool and I'm recommending it and it's going to help you, then why wouldn't you at least try it? I promise you, you're going to like it. I've been recommending it to all of my friends. And so definitely check it out. All right, Thomas, here's what I want to do. In a year from now, I want to bring you back on the show to talk about where we are, a year later with Trim. Sound good?
That sounds great.
All righty. Hey, thank you, my friend, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And just like that, we wrap up another amazing episode of the Money Peach podcast. Don't forget to head on over to moneypeach.com/trim, moneypeach.com/TRIM to check out everything that we talked about as far as how the app works, why it works, and why it's going to benefit you tremendously. All the show notes, the links, anything that Thomas and I talked about can, of course, be found over at moneypeach.com/session52. That's moneypeach.com/session52. Special thanks to my producer, Steve Stewart, my assistant, Kayla Sloan. Without them, this show would not be possible. We'll see you guys next week, same time, same place, with another amazing episode of the Money Peach podcast. Boom,